Strike first look on a Tuesday, and what a monster card it's shaping up to be at UFC 280 over in Abu Dhabi. 2 title fights, but of course, this card is so deep. There are champions, former champions littered on this card with potential new current champions. Of course, Charles Oliveira against Islam Makhachev is the main event, and Aljamain Sterling against TJ Dillashaw, the 2 title fights we're going to get at UFC 280. To help me break down this very exciting and interesting card is none other than Lou Finocchiaro. You can follow him as I do at Gamblou on Twitter. Also, of course, he's the host of the Bout Business podcast. And Lou, on the digital side, you have been on fire for VSiN Pro subscribers, I believe to the tune of 24-13 in your best bets, sir?
So far this year, Dave, yes, thanks for mentioning that. And that's just an extra benefit for digital subscribers. In fact, if they just subscribe to Insight the Octagon and bet $50 a release, they can pay for their subscription and a bet or two. Might be something worthy of consideration.
Absolutely. Let's try to stay hot for the people here at UFC 280 in Abu Dhabi. Of course, obviously, when you look at Islam Makhachev, I think a lot of people in the know in the UFC look at him as the future champion of this division. Charles Oliveira, if it wasn't for missing weight his last time out, still is regarded right now as the best 155er in the world. And now here, he's the betting underdog once again. And I feel like this is a common refrain with do Bronx. Sometimes, even at the highest levels here, he seems to be overlooked. I'm seeing plus 160 here on a Tuesday with Makhachev minus 190 as the betting favorite. How do you anticipate these lines moving as we get closer and closer to championship fights come Saturday?
Well, first of all, Dave, thank you so much for having me on. These are great, these early looks. And really with UFC 280, these lines were out 6 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, Oliveira plus 195. And I released it immediately then, anticipating a compression in the line. I don't think there's a lot of movement left, to be quite honest. I think that we're pretty close to what we're going to see. Makhachev, a vice grip Russian wrestler, that said, Makhachev has not fought a top 5 talent in the lightweight division. And some, even me, I'm open to the idea that Khabib's shirt tails have kind of helped him get to this spot. He's going to get in the octagon with a guy in Oliveira that has 13 lightweight wins, okay? Of 19 stoppage UFC wins, 16 via sub. Oliveira recently has disposed of top 5 talent Gaethje, the new incoming Michael
Chandler. Yep.
Thank Chandler. You for backing me up on the Chandler one. and quite honestly, I think he's insulted. This thing that happened in Phoenix with the weight loss, he didn't miss weight. There was hanky-panky going on. I was there. There was talk around it. We've seen some funny things on the scales before, a la Khabib's last fight against Gaethje. Mm-hmm. So I guess in a quick synopsis, Charles Oliveira is getting overlooked. Makhachev has gotten there, I think, with some help from Khabib. And when that bell rings, we're going to find out what Makhachev is made of. I'm firmly on the side of Oliveira here.
I think it's a great point because Oliveira does seem to have a chip residing on that shoulder. And, Makhachev, he's supposed to be the next Khabib Nurmagomedov, as you alluded to there. And I think Oliveira's like, I've beaten the best there is in the world in this weight class. And now all of a sudden I'm going to be a decided underdog against Makhachev. As you mentioned, the Russian style, he's going to want to try to ground this out with Oliveira. Be careful what you wish for sometimes because Oliveira will go for those subs as well. I look at the totals and the over-under right now, 2.5. If you think this fight is going to go at least 2.5 rounds or north of it, plus money right now at plus $1.30. The under right now, minus $1.60, under 2.5 rounds. What do you make of this? Is this a quick night in Abu Dhabi? Or do you think this might be longer than the betting market is anticipating?
It's hard to get on here and say I have no clue, but Dave, I have no clue. I mean, I could see Charles subbing him quick. That said, I believe Makhachev is going to be measured and not want to rush right into some kind of neck crank. Makhachev's renown for having a tremendous strike defense, that's because in one of his early fights, he was kicked in the head and knocked out. He don't want to strike. Oliveira wants to keep this thing standing, and as long as he does, he'll be faster, quicker, stronger, the better striker. Makhachev is going to have to get this to the floor. I believe he will. All of my insiders that I talk to about these fights, and we talk about them all the time, they believe Makhachev will get this to the ground, and at that point in time, the fight is going to begin.
It's going to be fascinating main event Saturday at Abu Dhabi. I mentioned, of course, 2 title bouts. We talked about the respect or lack thereof sometimes for Charles Oliveira as being maybe the best lightweight in the world at 155. I think the same could be said for a guy like Aljamain Sterling, now the champion here in the bantamweight division at 135. And right now he is a favorite, minus $1.75 against the former 2-time bantamweight champion. And TJ Dillashaw has had some personal issues. USADA testing. It's kind of been sporadic in his fight game and his return to the bantamweight division. And right now, plus $1.50 for the former 2-time champion in this weight class. Tried to go down to 125. That didn't work out well against Henry Cejudo. What do you make of Dillashaw now trying to be the first 3-time champion here in the bantamweight division?
I really think that he's kind of getting this opportunity without earning it to some degree. I am tainted against Dillashaw, not because he cheated, mostly because he doesn't recognize that he cheated. And for us to claim that this is going to be his 3rd opportunity at the title technically is correct. But how do you award him legitimate titles against Garbrandt and the others when we know he was full of juice? I believe that once you're on the juice, you got a way of staying ahead of it. I'm very suspect of Dillashaw. As far as the fight's concerned, I think that Aljo's going to be out athleticized, meaning TJ's footwork's something that's always been his specialty, and that's where I think Aljo might be a half a step behind. That said, emotionally for Aljo, after all the BS he took after that first Jan fight, to come back, dominate Jan the way he did, and he did dominate him. He's free as a bird, and you can see it in his interviews and how he's talking. There's a weight that's been lifted from him, and I believe that he has the ability to fight very, very free, almost without a care. And I think the pressure's all on Dillashaw, and I look for Sterling as the legitimate favorite in this fight, in a fight I'm probably not going to be too interested in.
You know, that's an interesting observation, though, Lou, because, again, you talk about the difference in the mentalities of being a champion maybe the first time around with a DQ against Peter Yan. A lot of people felt like maybe he didn't earn it. He clearly earned it in the rematch with Peter Yan. You mentioned Dillashaw. You know, they didn't have USADA testing back when he beat Renan Barão to win that title many moons ago in Chicago, and then also got the follow-up win against Barão, and then, of course, did beat Cody Garbrandt twice, once to win the title. So, again, there are some tainted championships, maybe both all the way around here. The total is interesting as well, 4.5 in a potential 5-round championship fight. 4.5 is juiced to the over significantly, minus 205. So, Lou, what the betting market is telling us is clear. They don't think that there's going to be a finish in there. Do you see finishing potential? And if you like it, you can get plus money at plus $1.65.
If I were to imagine how a finish would transpire, it would be late and Aljo subbing him.
Okay, so if we're going to get a finish, you think it might come later on in that fight. So, again, put that into your handicap, people, for over 4.5, minus 205. Under that total, again, plus $1.65. We mentioned
excuse the interruption, Dave. I firmly believe it's going to decision. I wouldn't mess with. If I messed with anything, it'd be over.
Okay, so look to the over there and maybe get a better price point for the fight to go all 5 rounds instead of playing the over $2 juice number for over 4.5. We mentioned Peter Yan, obviously in those 2 fights against Aljamain Sterling here. Now he goes up against the Sugar Show and Sean O'Malley. And what really surprises me, Lou, you mentioned that these numbers have been out there for quite some time. We've seen money come in on Sean O'Malley now. So Jan's still the big favorite, minus 265. O'Malley plus 225. That number for O'Malley, when it came out was north of $3. What do you make of it? Is it, in your eyes, a public move on the Sugar Show, or do you think there's some smart money coming in too?
That's a really good question. First of all, I'd say that O'Malley is approaching Diaz type of popularity. And so there's public on O'Malley no matter who he's going to fight. So yes, some of that is involved there. And as any sharp fight handicapper would look at these two, they would see that Jan's made for O'Malley. O'Malley, long, tall, angular. He's going to be the beneficiary of a 30-foot cage instead of a 25-foot cage. So seemingly everything's set up for O'Malley. The way I see this fight is as such. Jan starts slow, but Jan's best fighting is the last 5 minutes of a 5 or 3 round fight. O'Malley has shown in previous fights that he's a fireball for a round and a half, 2 rounds. I've not seen him be effective in the 3rd round, and it is both of his challenges against decent competition. Munoz was getting to his legs. I assure you Peter Yan is going to be poking at those toothpick legs. As well, the Moutinho fight, a journeyman fighter, not even in the UFC, comes up. It took him, 3 rounds to dispose of the guy. I have real questions as to whether this line movement is correct.
And also, it's interesting because the style of fight, if Jan does utilize those leg kicks and maybe utilizes wrestling, the over right now, 2.5 rounds here for this 3-round non-title fight is minus 205. The under here, again, plus $1.65. So do you think Jan would want to do that? Because you're right. That's the recipe, right? Get to the legs and maybe get a takedown and wear out Sugar, who likes to come out fast and get into that gas tank.
Legs first. 61.5% takedown accuracy for Jan. Take him down second, get on top, make him wrestle, make him struggle, suck him out, and in the 3rd round, tear him to pieces.
That seems like a pretty good strategy for Peter Yan in a very highly anticipated fight. I mentioned here you got this fight card is just littered with big time names. Obviously, the former light heavyweight champion of Volkan Oezdemir is back in there against Nikita Krylov. He's an underdog in that fight. The blonde bomber Caitlin Chikagan is in there against Manon Fiora. She is an underdog as well. Bilal Muhammad, a real player at 170 against Sean Brady. Bilal is an underdog. Is there any one of these fights here on a really stacked UFC 280 card here on a Tuesday that you think you could still get some value on?
Boy, Dave, a lot of the positions that we've made were made weeks ago for that reason, to try and get on top of the line moves. At this juncture right now, the way I'm looking at it, I think the best move might be to be a little patient on Chookagian, see where this line goes through the week. Fiorot is really a dynamic striker, got a lot of power, but she just recently beat the bejeebies out of 2 grappling Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artists. Chookagian's a whole different kind of fighter with 18, 19 pro fights, long, tall, no power whatsoever, but of her 19 wins, 16 via decision. Chookagian should not be overlooked.
And she's plus $1.75 as we talk on a Tuesday. I can't wait till we talk again on Friday on First Strike on VSiN and see where these numbers go. Lou, it's always a pleasure to have you on this early look here on a Tuesday to really try to find the best of the numbers out there. Very quickly, I mentioned the Bout Business podcast. Tell the people what they get when they listen and subscribe.
Bout Business podcast is all about deriving profit from the fights. Each Friday there's a fight card. We throw out a 16, 17-minute podcast with final releases. We keep track. We're running at a positive ROI, and we invite anyone to listen as well to these shows that we do with you here at VSiN, Dave.
Fantastic, Lou. You're the best. Really appreciate it here on a Tuesday. Can't wait for the full hour conversation. First Strike on Friday. We'll see you then on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.